Welcome to the Sixsess Consultancy's Just Great People podcast, the podcast that introduces you to ordinary people who've done extraordinary things. My name is Barry Eustance, and I'd like to introduce you to today's guest. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sixsess Consultancy podcast. We're really excited today to have Chris Fox from StratNavApp. Chris is a strategist with a long history in strategic planning and corporate planning for very large financial services organizations. And I'm going to hand over to Chris for him to give you a little bit of background, not only about himself, but also about StratNavApp. Disclosure: the Sixsess Consultancy uses StratNavApp as its go-to corporate and organizational planning program. So over to Chris. Thanks very much for joining us, Chris.
Thanks, Barry, and thanks for having me on. I'm really pleased to be speaking to you and to share some of the story. So for me, my journey started off. I was originally a technologist, and I got into strategy consulting round about the dot-com boom when. I think as we know, if we remember the story, a lot of businesses were created around the dot-com boom that made almost no strategic sense at all and collapsed. And from out of the ashes of that, the internet industry, as we know it, was born. But I made the transition at that point into strategy because I became really interested in working out what does it really take for a business to be successful. And what distinguishes the successful businesses from the also-rans. And I was working in corporate at the time. I was at one time the head of strategy and branding for a FTSE 100, and then I struck out on my own as an independent consultant. And one of the things that I quickly became quite frustrated with was the complete lack of tooling available for doing strategy. So I found I was using technology in two ways. I used a product called Evernote, which many people may be familiar with, and it's great as a note-taking app because you can capture almost anything. So I was using that extensively for taking meeting notes and working out strategies and things like that. And then the other tool I was using was PowerPoint, whose best virtue, I would say, is if you come up with a strategy, it makes it look pretty. And it always struck me that if the tools you're using, if their greatest virtue is that they make your strategies look pretty, they're not really working very hard for you.
But did you find, was there a customer demand for anything other than this kind of two-dimensional strategy? Well, it wasn't even planning. I guess it's strategy presentation, wasn't it? A way of recording strategy other than a notepad and a pencil.
Well, I mean, my customers for who I was developing the strategy, they didn't care one way or the other. They wanted someone who could tell them what they needed to do. And they didn't really care how you did it. It was the mechanics, if you like, of the exercise of going through, of working that out. So if you like, I was the first customer of the product I've built, because I was sitting there as a practicing strategist saying, this is really frustrating. I ought to have access to better tools than this. But for the most part, the customers were just saying, Chris, that's your problem. My customers were coming to me and saying, you make all of that go away. You figure all that out and you tell us the answer. But which, of course, if you're a large organization and you can afford to hire resources to do that for you, you can do that. You just make it someone else's problem. If you're a smaller organization and you can't afford to have consultants taking care of these problems for you, what you can do is you can use technology to help you do it. So in a similar way that if you're a medium organization, you can hire a bookkeeper to do your accounts, or you can use something like Xero or QuickBooks, right? You can have a technology solution to do it for you, which will do it much more cost effectively and pretty much as well. StratNavApp then becomes a tool that either a strategist like myself can use to do the job much more quickly and effectively, or a smaller business that can't afford someone like myself can use to do it themselves, like they would use QuickBooks or Xero to do their accounting.
And that journey really reflects how how I got into using StratNavApp, because it was exactly the same frustration, considerably, I mean, years later, looking throughout the internet as I did, wondering how all this plethora of modeling could be brought together, and none seemed to exist other than in PowerPoint. In fact, I still get emails from organizations who offer to sell me PowerPoint decks for $1,200 a year. And actually that's all they are. They're just, as you say, the ways of making it pretty, and with no kind of dimensionality to it. There's no time component. There's no three-dimensional element.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I sometimes say to people, you might as well be using a wax tablet.
Yeah.
Right, because PowerPoint knows as much about the job of creating and executing strategy as a wax tablet did, that they were using sort of pre-Roman times, if you like. And for me, the frustrating thing was I was working with clients, as you mentioned, a lot of them in the financial services sector, and we were having strategic conversations about how you use technology to better enable their businesses, CRM systems and policy administration systems and marketing automation systems and financial systems. That's obviously a big drive in most organizations, is to use technology to do things better, more effectively, and more efficiently. And yet, as the advisor, I was doing I was doing things exactly the same way as people had been doing them for the last 20 or 30 years. It just wasn't moving on.
So tell me the story of how you then decided to reinvent the wheel and actually provide something that turned and was able to take the cart along with it. How did you get into that? It's presumably wasn't part of your original plan, was it?
Well, I mean, yes and no. In a sense, I can't. I'm a strategic thinker. I can't help it. So I spend time worrying about these things, right? What ought the future of strategic thinking and strategic planning be, and how could we use technology? So I had those sort of things going on, always in the back of my head as I was working, and but at the same time, I won't say I came up with this grand master plan and vision and epiphany all in one go. And honestly, strategy probably doesn't happen like that very often. It evolved, and as it turns out, I was doing a lot of work away. And I'm not the kind of person who can go, there's a lot of consultants when they're on away projects, they just go out drinking every night. My liver can't handle that. So I found myself spending quite a lot of time alone in hotel rooms and fiddling and trying to come up with better solutions. And StratNavApp literally started with me trying to see if I could come up with almost some personal productivity tools in a hotel room late at night. And it sort of evolved to the point
so
where
how would you, Chris, how would you now describe, after all the iterations and all the development of StratNavApp, if I was sitting at the other end of a Google search, what is it that StratNavApp is going to bring to me as a new business owner, or as a consultant, or as a strategy professional? What is it? What is StratNavApp? Tell me what it is.
Yeah, so I think the best way to describe it is if you start. Let's pick a small to medium business owner, and you start with, what's the problem I'm trying to solve? The problem I'm trying to solve is I need to know, what do I need to do to grow my business and make sure it's going to be successful in the future. That's the fundamental challenge that all small business owners or managers face. And StratNavApp gives you an end-to-end toolkit for doing that. And it'll take you all the way through thinking through what the challenges and opportunities are, to mapping out how you should prioritize and focus your activities, to helping and guiding you through the execution of those, and then tracking the results to make sure that it's working for you. And it does all of that, providing you with sort of constant guidance and AI support to help you do that. I think an accounting system is a good parallel for this. So if you're a business leader, at the end of you need to keep a good set of books and be able to file your financial statements every year, right? That's the problem that you're trying to solve. So you need some technology that's going to help you and show you how to do that as effectively as possible with as little extra effort from your part. So StratNavApp will take you through that whole process. It'll help you work out what the challenges and opportunities are, what you should be prioritizing and focusing on, help you manage through the process of executing, budgeting, allocating resources, etc., and will help you track whether it's achieving those results and feed that back into the process so that you can be continually adapting your focus and your planning as things evolve.
Terrific. Now, we're going to do, folks, Chris is now going to take us, next time we come up with our podcast, Chris is going to take us through whether it's difficult to do what he's just suggested, or in fact, whether it's easy, and the processes and stages that can be applied to your business and organization using StratNavApp. So Chris, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you again on the Sixsess Consultancy podcast again very, very soon.
Thanks, Barry. It's great. I look forward to it.
See you then. So that's it for today's Just Great People podcast from the Sixsess Consultancy. We hope and trust you've enjoyed it. Please join us next time, and please do remember to subscribe. Thanks for joining us.